welcome to today's episode of Authentic Achievements, where it's my absolute privilege to be joined by the fabulous Lana Sheppard. Lana, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to this conversation. And as evidenced by our pre-conversation, get stuck into this. So before we do, let me share with those listening and watching a little bit more about Lana. So Lana is a business coach, author, and champion for entrepreneurs ready to embrace what many fear, letting go. Lana's passion lies in showing entrepreneurs how financial literacy and strategic decision-making can unlock sustainable growth in a way that's practical, engaging, and unlike anything you've encountered before. Having built her success from the ground up, Lana knows firsthand the feeling of hitting walls, feeling stuck, and even becoming your own biggest obstacle. Wow, it definitely resonates. Embracing these lessons has led to her success in the last 20 years, dominating the bookkeeping industry and growing and selling several businesses. Lana understands the keys of success that many pass by, why mindset matters. Through her book, workshops, and coaching, she empowers entrepreneurs to release what no longer serves them and ignite what does. Her approach isn't about giving up on dreams. It's about letting go of the things standing in their way. I mean, wow, what a journey. And so I was smiling along throughout that because I was like, oh my goodness, yeah, been there, seen that one. Don't we? That entrepreneurial journey is not for the faint-hearted.
No.
But Lana, I mean, what an amazing journey you've had. Can you bring that to life for us and share a little bit more?
Yeah, like some people say I've had 100 lives because I've had lots of opportunities from age 17 straight through. And I think my entrepreneurial perk kind of started in about 1990-ish when my late husband and I were trying to figure out how we could live on the farm with the kids and sustain it. So we looked at fish farming and ostriches and all kinds of stuff, and we ended up having a sheep dairy. So we had East Frisian dairy sheep. We were one of 4 dairies in Canada at the time. And when I had to figure out how we were going to market all of the different products that you could take from a sheep, whether it be the wool, whether it be leather, whether it be the meat, the milk, making different products. So that's kind of when I first got dipping my toes into an entrepreneurial, as well as holding down a job full time, 3 children at home, and a husband. So that kept me busy until 2006. And my husband ended up with cancer and passed away. So I became a single mom. My youngest was 13 at the time. And I had to figure out what I was going to do so that I could still be somewhat present for my children, but also make a living. And I started a bookkeeping and payroll business. And it got to the point where I had to move from home into my first brick and mortar building. And my older daughter was starting university. So of course there's tuitions and all this kind of stuff. And I kind of, in that transition, I kind of went on autopilot where I was just going through the motions, building my business, making sure that I could pay tuition, take care of my children best I could, and put everything else, put the blinders on and not pay attention to anything else. I didn't want to feel, I didn't want to think about stuff. So work did become my addiction. And for 16 years, I built up a bookkeeping and payroll business in Canada that was deemed as one of the largest ones in Canada. And I sold in 2020. But in 2017, my oldest daughter, decided that I should go to a Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within.
Yeah.
So I had cassette tapes, Tony Robbins cassette tapes. I'm kind of dating myself to the 1980s, preaching to the choir, telling her, she should practice this, that, and the next thing, and not doing it myself, obviously. So off to Los Angeles, my 2 daughters and I went to Tony Robbins, and that was my 180. I did a complete flip because the process you go through with the UPW really asks really good questions, and it makes you dig really deep in your soul as to who am I? What do I want to do? Am I happy with what I've got? And could it be better? And I'm thinking, life sucks right now. I don't like where I'm at. I didn't even know what I wanted for lunch. Never mind, what do I want in life, really? Like I was totally tuned out for so many years. So I decided after UPW that I was going to do the homework. As they say, I drank the Kool-Aid and signed up for all of Tony's courses. I also, in the journey, was presented to Natalie Ledwell for Mind Movies, which then led me to Mary Morrissey. So I took all of Mary Morrissey's. I just became a knowledge junkie and just said, you know what, I want to do the work, but I need help with this. And those courses was really what fueled my journey forward. So fast forward a couple of years, I'm now a senior leader in the Tony Robbins world, sold my business just a month before COVID, and decided that, you know, all the entrepreneurs that I worked with, about 1,300 of them over 14 years, there was a lot of commonality between these entrepreneurs, and a lot of it was mindset. It could be just limiting beliefs. A lot of it was relationship to money, because doing bookkeeping, you know, they didn't want to look at their financials. They'd always come and tell me, oh, I was never good with math. Or when I go to the accountant's office, I feel like I've been in the principal's office and I'm getting scolded for having a bad year. And then they're embarrassed. They don't want to look at it. So after all of this happened, I joined a couple of mastermind groups, and I decided last year I was at a Bali retreat with John Lee, and one of the guests that came to the retreat was Ken Honda. Ken Honda is a Japanese author that wrote the book Happy Money. And him and I sat, and he basically talked to me about, you know, why don't you write a book, tell your story, and, you know, all these lessons learned, put them into a book. So I thought, okay. So I started putting a book together. And then another mentor of mine, Vince Tan, that is in Malaysia, he's been mentoring me. And when I gave him the title that I had, he goes, no, you're going to call it Give Up. Give up fear of failure. Give up, you know, the need for approval. Give up fear in numbers. He says, you don't have to take more on. People have to learn how to take on less. Like, what are you going to let go of that you're dragging along, or what's holding you back on your journey? And it was like, that's brilliant. So this is what the first book that I launched is Give Up Ignition. And it's the first 11 give ups that I recognized I had to give up early on in my entrepreneurial journey. The second book is coming out in March, and it's called Give Up Ignition, or Liftoff. So if you think of a hot air balloon, what are the sandbags that you have to let go of to let that balloon soar? You know, how is it going to rise up? You got to let go of stuff. You don't have to take on more stuff. And that's, I think it's counterintuitive, in that it's okay to let go of stuff. You don't have to hang on to all this stuff. So this has basically been my journey since 2017, is what have I had to learn to give up, let go of, become aware of my limiting beliefs, and then saying, are they serving me? Are they not serving me? What could I replace it with that would be more serving and more true to where I am in life? And there was a lot of deep dive, let me tell you. And I kind of explain it like a closet. You open that door and you let all this stuff fall out of the closet. And I didn't want to stuff it back in the closet again. I wanted to take every single one of those, you know, take a look at them. Did they serve me? They didn't serve me. Okay, I'm going to keep this one, and I'm going to get rid of all the rest of them. And I'll make some new beliefs and some new habits that I'll take forward that are going to serve me as to where I am and where I want to go, like what's my North Star and where I want to get to. So that's kind of been my journey over the course of a number of years, but more significantly since 2017 is really where I turned the corner and said, I don't want to go back to those old ways of living my life, that I can step into my greatness and I can do a lot more, and I can pay forward and serve clients and entrepreneurs at a much higher level.
Wow.
So
I mean,
kind of what it's all about.
What a journey. And I'm sorry to hear about your late husband. And I can understand how once that happened, you do almost become a single parent and get into a just keep moving forward mindset and those parts. But then I've also, we were laughing beforehand that we were probably kindred spirits. I've also done some Tony Robbins stuff and that kind of that moment when you realize that you're the one in your way.
100%.
All of these things that, I spotted for myself, all of these things that I had told myself other people thought without having the good grace of asking them what they thought, and then using that as an excuse not to move forward. So actually not even accepting the blame or the responsibility.
Yeah.
The moment when you realize that is both embarrassing and empowering, isn't it? It almost equal measure. That was like, I could have got further if I'd just done this sooner. But I think that journey into our mindset and understanding that we can change it is so crucial, isn't it? I mean, we talk a lot these days about mindset, and despite that we talk about it a lot, not everybody does the work on it, and it does take action, doesn't it? Not just, I was like you, I was a bit of a course junkie and then a book junkie, and I had read everything because I love all of that. I was like, but are you taking the action? Are you doing something with it? I hear myself sometimes talking to clients and I say to myself internally, great advice, Kim, you're not doing it yourself, right? So get off the call and do it yourself. Because we've got to not only do the thinking, we've got to do the action that comes off it, haven't we?
It's funny you say that, because from 2017 till about 2022, I think I read about 500 books. And I had my business coach actually say to me, well, that's nice. So out of every book, what action have you taken? And I sat back and went, oh my God, all I've done is just been reading like a sponge, and I've done none of it. Absolutely none of it. So it's like, okay, I'm talking about it, but I'm not doing the walk myself. And it's easy to go yap, yap, yap. But then when you actually have to take it and implement it, execute it, that's a whole nother ball game to do. So I totally agree with you. It's easy to talk about, but it is difficult to do. It's funny because I was actually I'm in Malaysia right now, and I was talking to the High Chief Abbot for one of the Buddhist temples. And my question to him was, what tips could he give entrepreneurs that could help with depression, with anxiety, the whole bit? And he also said the same thing. He says, it's easy to talk about, but it's really difficult to do. But he said, it's like having a fire. So that situation is the fire. He says, and then you just need to find, what's the water that you could put on that fire to put it out, because nothing stays the same. It's like a river, the situation you're in today is not going to last forever. It doesn't matter what it is. It's going to change. It's going to evolve, whatever that case may be. But, everyone goes, well, do meditation. Well, meditation is great if you've got space in your mind to do meditation. But when you're deep in the moment, it's really difficult to see any angle on how to get out of that. You're in this dark space and you don't see anything. So to me, some of the things that I did when I was in these dark spaces was I'd go for a walk. I would just step back and go, okay, take a breath and really take a step back far enough that you're kind of looking at the situation from the outside, because you just need to do a little 2 millimeter shift and things will look different. Or, if you've got someone you can confide in, a mentor, a coach. Good grief, I went like 12 years without having any kind of a coach or a mentor. It was the worst thing I could have done, because it's a hard journey on your own when you don't have somebody to bounce ideas off, or just feel like you've got someone on you that's got your back, that's watching out for you. So I don't know. I think there's so many things that we can do, and just simple little tips and tricks that people can turn to when they're in those positions, so that it doesn't look like it's as big a problem. And those little tips and tricks are kind of like the little one step at a time to work your way out of it. And I think it gets easier as you've done it once. You go, hey, yay me. I worked my way out of that situation, that you slowly build more confidence each time, going, okay, next time I've got, this is what worked last time. So let me try that. Oh, that doesn't work. Well, then I have to shift my perspective, or I need to look at that situation from a different angle.
Oh, I love that. It's so true, because I love a quote, and the quote always reminds me of, because you can get them from anywhere. It's from Frozen 2, and it's that moment from when Anna thinks that she's lost everybody, and it's do the next right thing. And I remember I hold on to that in all those moments of utter darkness. It's like, well, what right thing can I see, and I'll do that, even if it's just really minute. But
exactly.
I'm looking for a right thing that I can do, and before you know it, that you find a link to the lightness, don't you? But it's it can be so hard, and having somebody with you, a coach, or as you said, or a mentor, an advisor, someone who can help shine a light on your blind spots, but also gives you that psychologically safe space for you to be able to go and do what is hard work, isn't it? To go inwards and really first understand and acknowledge, and then reassess, reevaluate, and remove the bits that aren't working and replace with things that are. Takes dedicated action. So how do people get started on that journey?
I think one of the things that I recommend that I found very successful is journaling. Actually taking, and I don't know for other people, but me, it was like taking all this chatter and clatter going on in my mind. And it's magical when you take it and you runs down your arm to your fingers to a pen and you write it on paper. Not just sit and think about it, because it's like you can't get it out that way. And it's not the same as dictating it or typing it on a computer, but having paper and pen and actually writing out, your thoughts, or, how your day was. And I can go back and look at stuff I wrote 7 years ago, and it's like, wow, have I ever come a long way by going back and reading, stuff that I wrote 7, 8 years ago. So that would be the first thing that I would recommend. Secondly, is I always felt like I was on autopilot. And how many of us go through our day and don't even think about what we're doing? How many times have I left the house going, did I shut the lights off? Did I shut the stove off? Did I unplug my curling iron? That was one of my most prominent ones when I was doing day job and going to the office. It's like you don't even think about what you do. You get up the same side of bed, you go brush your teeth. Nobody thinks about what they do all day. So bringing awareness and being in the moment and paying attention to what you're saying to yourself as you're going about your day was the second key to a lot of, because we often say nasty things to ourselves that we would never say to anybody, our friends or family, a stranger on the street. But we can really knock ourselves down if we allow it. So it's changing our words, or instead of saying, I have to go and do something, it was, I get to go and do. Put gratefulness to it rather than it being a chore. And just paying attention to your words that you use every day. Those were the main things, because I was in such autopilot. I didn't want to feel, I didn't want to think. I was just going through the motions every day. So it took me quite a few months before, I got to the point where I was present more time than I was not present. But it takes a while to do that. And even now, I find sometimes I'll get in a stressful situation that I start to veer towards that, because that used to be my comfort zone. I just won't think about it. Maybe it'll go by, go away on its own or something like that. That I still catch myself doing that. And that's after doing quite a few years of work at it. So I still have triggers that will put me in that space that I have to pay attention to, because it would take nothing to go back to that. It's like somebody quitting smoking. They have one cigarette, they start smoking again. It's the same thing. It's just, it's a mannerism or a habit that's so ingrained. You've done it for so many years that it takes nothing for you to go back to it.
Well, it's so true, isn't it? Because we do so much of our lives where we're not intentional, where we're not thinking. And I was smiling along because actually I have at the side of me here an hourglass. And every now and again, when I catch myself in those moments where I'm like, you've not been present, I'll turn it over and I'll be really present for the next period to remind myself that this is the habit I'm now trying to create. Because as you said, the old habits die hard, don't they? And the old habit was
just on the other side of that door, just waiting for you to come back to that party, you know. It's like, I don't want to go back there.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy the party. But it can. But I think I don't know if this resonates. I think for me, one of the things I spot now is I catch myself moving in that direction, and then I make myself move in the other direction. And I've learned to be gracious with myself about that. Because when I was first learning it, I'd get really cross with myself that I'd veered towards the old habit, and then I'd waste energy being cross with myself that I just switched it off like that. And now I go, it's okay, but you caught it, and you chose a different path.
We have to be kind to ourselves.
Yeah.
You have to be kind, and give yourself grace, because you're going to have those times when that's going to happen. Recognize it, go, yes, hey, yay me, I recognize it, and celebrate it, because then your body's going to want more celebration, or little things. Like if you set the intention in the morning, you're going to get something accomplished, do a happy dance.
Yeah.
Celebrate the moments. Or, you know, what are the 3 things that you're grateful for today? You know, I'll be working with clients and I'll ask them, you know, what are you grateful for today? Well, they have to think about it. And I'm not sure. Yet if you ask them, what are you cranky about? Oh, they got a whole list they can tell you all about. Because we're so trained to look at the negative, and we don't have this, and this isn't working well, and all kinds of stuff. We don't think about, what are we grateful for today?
Oh, I love that. Me and my little girl, we've got a gratitude jar, and we do every day we do a what are we grateful for, and then we write it down and we stick it in the jar, and at the end of the year we can take them out and have a look and start again, and it does change that. It changes that focus, doesn't it? To say, you know, what I've found over the years is we're really, really good at knowing what we don't want. when we're asked what do we really want, we've not got the same level of clarity on that.
No.
And yet when we start to focus on it, when to your point, when we ask the right questions to dig into what do we really want, what's a good outcome for me, and the fact that actually a good outcome for me might be hideous in somebody else's eyes. They might go, really? That's what you'd like? You think that's successful? And that's okay, because it's your journey. So you can go, well, actually, you know, I remember some days when things were going really badly, going, if I could just adult appropriately for 12 hours, you know, that's success. You'd be pleased to say, Lana, that's not what I see as successful right now, but it was right and proper. That was success back then.
Yeah, and the thing I challenge everybody with is, when you dream bigger than what you have the ability to do. Yeah. And it's universal law. We come from our dreams. We don't go to them.
Yeah.
So everything around us started with a thought. You know, our furniture, our vehicles. Thank goodness the Wright brothers dreamed about flying, or would we be able to fly and be in different parts of the world? Honestly, you know, everything started with a thought. It's not like it was made and then we thought about it afterwards. So I'm always encouraging anybody that I work with is dream big and put lots of color to it. If you want a house, what color are the walls? How big are the rooms? You know, like literally vision yourself in the house, because whenever you do that unconsciously, your mind and your opportunities, they're going to be paying attention and looking for that now for you. You manifest it. Really, as silly as it sounds, it's happened so many times for so many people that it's energy. Yeah. Or when you're thinking about somebody and all of a sudden they phone you, that's not coincidence.
No.
That's vibration and energy between different people, and the universe makes that happen.
It's so true. In fact, I spoke about that a bit when I did my TEDx, which was that whole, the minute you've decided a particular car is what you're looking for, that's all you can see. It's everywhere. Every man and his dog's got a car want. And it isn't because there's more of them there. It's because your subconscious now knows that that's something that's interesting to you. So it plays more in. But if you're focused on the things you don't want, it plays all of those in, because the subconscious mind, I always say is what is one of your best friends you'll ever have, but it comes with one massive flaw. It doesn't understand help or harm. So whatever you're focused on, it goes and gets you, even if actually you're focused on something you don't want. And I think it's once we realize that, we can better focus. And I guess that's kind of that, what bits are we giving up, isn't it? What bits are we allowing ourselves to let go of now? And I know that's what your books are around. But what would you say has been the most powerful thing you've given up, and how did it impact you?
I think the most powerful thing that I gave up was the lone wolf mentality. I'm the only one that can do it. I'm the only one that can do it right. And that also meant that I would never ask for help. So, and then I would get mad if nobody would help me, but I never went to ask for help because I don't need help. I can do all these things myself. So that's one of the biggest give ups. And, underneath that lone wolf mentality, there's all kinds of other little give ups that permeate from that as well, like need for approval or perfectionism. That's the lowest standard for yourself. Tony always says that's the lowest standard because there is no perfect. Yeah. So if you want to be a perfectionist, that's the lowest standard you could have for yourself, because you're never, ever going to reach that. So if you've got, a project or something that you want to move forward with, go and do it. And I've been paralyzed, I don't know how many times, on projects, and even launching my first book. I wrote about need for approval, all these things. I launched the book on my 62nd birthday, the 11th of July. I was going to have a big launch party. I was at the lake with my dad, we're going to do this all online. I did nothing. I was physically nauseous, going, oh my God, what am I doing? Are you crazy? Nobody's going to read this thing. This is the dumbest thing you've ever done. I'm having this battle with my mind, even after I'm writing, telling people, don't just give it up. It's not that easy. So I did nothing. I did no launch party. I just quietly launched my book. I thought, I don't know if this is crazy. I don't even think I should be doing this. And then I had a few people buy the book and give me, feedback going, oh my gosh, Lana, that was a chapter I really needed to read. So that's what kind of set me free of the judgment, going, okay, this is okay. And it is my story. It's not anybody else's story. And all I've put in there is my experiences and how I dealt with it. But it gave me that comfort knowing that, I have made a difference for somebody else. If they can read and take one gold nugget from it, then that lights me up. I'm thrilled that book has made a difference for somebody else. And maybe it'll make their journey a little bit, not as many bumps along the road that I had, because of the lessons that I've learned and I've shared in the book. So the second book is coming out in March 11th. And I'm having a party this time. Yay. Definitely having a party. I've got past that need of approval stuff. And you know what? If people don't like the book, whatever. I've written it. I've put my heart into it. It's my journey. I've put it into words now. And but it just took me back. I'm sitting there at the lake going, oh my gosh, Lana, you're still hung up on your own problems, even though you've written it in the book. But it's, I don't think you're ever 100% immune from it. You still have to deal with all these little things that set you back. And, being in Malaysia right now, I'm Canadian, but I've been in Malaysia now for 6 weeks, and going to some of the temples, they have guards on the doors. So if you go to a Tao, any kind of a Buddhist temple, those guards are to protect the inside. So I've been practicing and thinking about that, going, every time you come up against a wall or you come to that door and you're fearful to go through the door, all I'm going to do now is I'm going to envision that it's actually safer on the inside by entering the temple, and those guards are going to keep everything, in the environment that you're currently in. They're going to keep it on that side of the door. So it's just a whole mindset shift that it's safer to walk through that door than to hold yourself back and stay on the outside of where the guards on the doors are.
I love that. What a great analogy. And I think it's funny. I talked about this and the fact that the things that we're fearful of haven't happened. We've had to imagine them. And the things that we're hopeful for haven't happened. We've had to imagine them. And they're imagined in the same brain. So they're equally likely. And yet we choose to believe that the thing we're fearful of is more likely and more credible than the thing that we're hopeful for. And yet that was in the same brain. And despite the fact that's what I was talking about, I remember getting some feedback from the guy who was running the event. And he said, it was really interesting. He said, I watched you before everybody else went on. He said, you did everyone's hair and makeup. You were cheering them all on. You were like, you've got an amazing story to get out there, something that's going to really help people. He said, and then I watched what you did to yourself before you got on. Bearing in mind, I was talking quite openly. And I was like, oh, you kind of saw that. And he said, so you've been really, really positive to everybody else. He said, and what did you do to yourself? And I said, I looked myself as a reflection of me in the window, before we got on the stage. And I just looked at myself straight in the eye and went, for crying out loud, it's 12 minutes of your life and you're not going to die. Get over yourself. I went in. And he said, for everybody else, you'd cheat them up. He said, and it just gave me an inkling. And I smile now because this was about 4 years ago. But it is still part of that journey, isn't it? It's still part of that piece of it. Just because we know it doesn't mean to say that we live it in every minute of every day, because we're going to catch ourselves. But the point is learning to catch ourselves, isn't it? So that we can be conscious.
Yeah. My father is a retired accountant. He's 90 years old. And he gave me some, not long after my husband died, I was worrying about everything. And he goes, Lana, he says, worrying is like paying interest on a debt you do not owe. And I thought, perfect words from an accountant to another bookkeeper accountant. But and then to this day, I still remind myself when I start worrying about something, it's like, okay, I don't owe any interest on that. I don't need to spend any time on it, because really, it's not a debt that I owe. It's not a worry that's most likely going to happen. So it's something that I always remind myself, is what my father told me a number of years ago, is, why are you paying interest on a debt you don't owe?
I love that. What amazing, amazing advice. Lana, I could literally chat to you all day, but I'm conscious of time. And you've already shared such amazing insight. But if you could go back and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
I think the piece of advice would be to have reached out to a coach or a mentor early in my journey as an entrepreneur, because, like Keith Cunningham says, I paid a lot of dumb tax, making wrong decisions because I didn't know what I didn't know is really why they happened. And I think having a business coach or a mentor early on the game would have taken me further faster in so many different directions. And I would have still had the failing forward, but it would have been worthy failing forward rather than failing forward because I didn't know what I didn't know, and somebody else could have saved some of those bumps and bruises that I had along the way. And just, believe in yourself and step into your greatness. We're all unique. We all have our own superpowers, and just be authentic self and just step into it and enjoy it, rather than holding yourself back and then having all kinds of regrets years later because you didn't do this or you didn't do that. Hindsight's always 20/20, as we know. But if we have the courage to be authentic, we have the courage to step forward and be our authentic self, just think of the lives we can have. And let go, give up all this stuff that's holding you back. What are those sandbags on your basket that are holding your balloon from soaring that you need to let go of? Because we're here for such a short period. Like, if you look at the history of the world, we're here like a little pin drop for a lifetime. Why aren't we always living the best version of ourselves?
And
how do you get there? It's all inner work you have to do.
Yeah, that so resonates. So I always say to my little girl, our only job in life, the absolute only job we have, is to be a better version of ourselves today than we were yesterday.
100%.
Not anybody else, not of anything else, but the best version of us that we can be. And that's the only thing you should be looking to compare yourself against is, am I a better me than I was yesterday? Have I improved? And that so resonates throughout everything you've said. So Lana, can you share with us before you go, how can people get in touch with you? Get my teeth in. How can people get in touch with you and who can help?
I have a website, giveupbook.com. And also anybody that purchased the Give Up book, Ignition, on the end of every chapter, there's a website, and it's a downloadable workbook free of charge that's built on Notion. So you can actually download a copy of your own. Because as we spoke earlier, reading is one thing. Integrating it, executing it, implementing it in your life is a whole nother ballgame. So the workbooks give some more tips and tricks, some tracking, so you can keep track of your own progress, vision board ideas, journaling, that sort of thing. So to try and help anybody that's bought the book actually implement and be able to make those changes in their life. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. So I've got a professional page as well as the Give Up has a separate LinkedIn page. And then we're also on Instagram and Facebook under the Give Up name.
Amazing. And I will make sure for anybody who is scribbling furiously there, we're not getting it all down, that all of the ways that you can connect with Lana are in the show notes below. So if you haven't had a chance to write any of that down, please just look at the show notes below and all of the details will be there. Lana, it's been an absolute delight. I can't thank you enough for coming and sharing your journey and your insight with us.
I have enjoyed every moment, and thank you very much. It's been wonderful.
Bless you. Thank you. And to everybody listening and watching, I hope you found it as inspiring, informative, and action-taking as I have. And until next time, take care.